striker links, names that we have talked about before. They have been on lists that young Alex has shared. But do you want to bring us up to speed with the kind of 2 links that you put out, and then we can talk about AJ's other potential targets as well?
Yeah, there's a couple of names that have been able to finally put out there as very much on Ipswich's striker target list. One is Joël Piroe at Leeds, who scored tons of goals in the Championship, both for Swansea and Leeds, but has found himself another one who's found himself sort of limited game time in the Premier League this season. Report from Holland, his homeland, saying that he wants to stay at Leeds and fight for his place, and that he's not that keen on his next move being back to the Championship. Can't stand that part of it up, but I do know that he's a player that is of interest to Ipswich Town. But if we're going by the noises surrounding that deal, that one might be unlikely at this juncture. The one that I've been hearing for a long time, and I've finally been able to kind of put out there, is Sam Suridge, who had a bit of a sort of a nomadic start to his career. He was at Bournemouth, had a few loan spells out, went to Stoke, handful of games there. Then he goes to Forest, and he helps fire Forest into the Premier League. He's another one who then didn't really translate into sort of Premier League form, got 1 goal in that sole season in the Premier League. And he's gone over to the States, and he's gone to Nashville. And he's scored sort of a goal every other game over there. He's just finished as 2nd top goal scorer in the MLS to a certain Lionel Messi. And he's got a lot of the Kieran McKenna striker qualities. He's tall, but he's mobile. He's a kind of between the posts poacher. And if we're talking about what maybe Ipswich have lacked in the first half of this season, it's someone to be really clinical. And speaking to friends that support Forest, they'd say he's one of the most clinical finishers that they've had in recent times. So whether that deal can get done is another big question, because there's plenty of other parties interested in Sam Suridge, and there'll be a bit of a domino effect going on. Wolves are the club that worries me most on that one. Looks like Strand Larsen is on the move at the moment. They're going to need a striker. Can Ipswich persuade someone of that nature to come to a top-end Championship club, or a bottom-end Premier League club that might be about to pass ways in the summer? We'll have to see.
Well, Wolves are going down, so what's the appeal there? In terms of money, Stu, what kind of money do you reckon it would take for Surridge to come into Suffolk? Are we talking multi-millions?
Yeah, it would have to be. I think they paid £5 million to sign him. When he went there, his stock, you would say, has risen since then. He's got a year left on his contract, but there is an option to extend that by a year, so he's reasonably well protected from that point of view. Don't know where that would land in terms of money, but yeah, multi-million-pound signing that would have to be. Yeah.
Okay, AJ, both of those names were on lists that you put out as potential targets. Joël Piroe, you've spoken about one here before, saying you don't think he'd fit the Kennan system. He doesn't do enough press. But you have spoken before excitedly about Sam Suridge. So do you want to just talk a little bit about those two and your thoughts on how they might fit at Town?
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting. She mentions the domino effect about how all of these could take shape, and I think that actually they all link up, don't they, in a way where the Strand Larsen news that's come out this morning, it sounds like he's going to go from Wolves to Crystal Palace, which could then be a knock-on effect for whether Piroe would be available, because Leeds, who put in a bid for Strand Larsen, then would be not getting their striker. So that might mean that Piroe stays and then Strand Larsen moves on. So that then could cause Wolves to go into the striker market for someone like Sam Suridge. So domino effects all over. As for how they fit in, I really like Joël Piroe. I think that he's a good player. I think that he is probably the best finisher a Championship club can get. But I do just wonder about the other side of the games. He's one of those where you put the ball on the plate for him and he will put it into the back of the net. He's got a hell of a shot on him, but he's not going to do kind of the hard graft that a George Hurst would do, or that an even Azon would do, and even a Chuba Akpom, to be honest, would do. And that is probably the side of things that concerns me, and that's why Daniel Farke's the same as well. There's very similar managers in the way, Farke and McKenna, and how they want their strikers to be front-footed and aggressive. And when Farke first came in, he started playing Piroe as a 10 because he didn't like how little he pressed and put Ruter up front instead. So that is probably one of those concerns, but he will score, and that's ultimately what you want from a striker, despite my concerns. And then Surridge is kind of your typical poacher. He will do more of the hard work and hold up play and the physicality and things like that. Probably, again, not to the same extent as a George Hurst, but I think there's a fine balance there between someone that can do that aspect to a degree, but also is much more clinical in front of goal. You can probably count on between, let's say, signed before the deadline. I'd back on him to go near enough to double digits between now and the end of the season. He's in form. Obviously, he's rejuvenated his career a little bit by going over to the States, and given that he was a good championship player before, I think he could definitely be one to go up to the next level. So if you offer me both, I would be taking Sam Suridge of the two, but they kind of have different strengths and weaknesses for each of them.